Such a pleasure to have you all this evening. Now, this past week we celebrated Labor Day. Kotu Secretary General Francis Atwoli was interrupted by the sound of a lone protester, former journalist and photo activist Boniface Mwangi. Now, Mwangi is protesting the move by MPs to increase their salaries and allowances and the fact that Atwoli is supporting them. Now, listen into the drama as the president watched.
Other women representatives who are here, both from the county, those in Parliament and those in the Senate, our honorable judges of the Industrial Court of Kenya, honorable members of Parliament, you can see that noise is that because I have said, and this is a principle, that nobody's salary should be reviewed downwards. Few NGOs organize themselves to make a little bit of noise. Those are not our members.
And part of what we were not able to show you, gentlemen, is the fact that somewhere during those proceedings, Atwoli went ahead to say that, you know what, the police should ignore that situation because there's Jeshi Atwoli that was there and that would handle it. And you did see Boniface being carried out. What do you think of these scenes? Prof, let me begin with you.
I think I have very many things to say about Atwoli. First of all, he has no business talking about a security situation. That was the work of the police if there was a problem. Secondly, he does not have authority to command any jeshi as he put it. He says there was a jeshi he has. Whichever troops he's commanding is wrong. And thirdly, if you look at the fact that this guy was protesting against what most of us in Kenya think, that the MPs knew the salary they were going to earn before they went for elections. I think it was unfair to mishandle Mwangi, and if the way the security people behaved was a way of saying that Mwangi was wrong and Atwoli was right, then we got it all wrong.
There are those of us that believe in this country in working towards changing the perception of Africa being the basket case, and Uhuru Park is a place where we passed the new constitution just a few years ago. And so to desecrate it in that way when the president's sitting there at a function to, I guess, trash the Bill of Rights, which guarantees freedom of expression. So Mwangi didn't rush the stage. There was no security violation. He expressed his strong sentiments about the bid by MPs to rob Kenyan taxpayers, so to speak, to increase their pay. The support of Atwoli to do the same, and so at the least you want to allow him to do that. And it was really shameful and really wrong. And if you look at the clip carefully, as they rushed him and chased him along, and he's headed out, he's bleeding in the mouth and all of that. And so again, it desecrates the place that we actually promulgated the new constitution. And so that leads to the question: and are we, in essence, talking these many things, but in many ways showing ourselves as a nation and to the world as a banana republic?
Moses, what do you think of Francis Atwoli? I mean, he has been celebrated because of his very tough position and, advocacy for workers' rights and all of that. But there's another school of thought that says just if you were to measure alone by the way the man carries himself, including the bling, if I could use that colloquial expression, that basically his actions and the people he's defending are two worlds apart. Would you agree?
Francis Atwoli has been on the scene for quite some time, and I don't think he's come that far because he's stupid. There must be some things that he does right that sustains him, within the labor movement for that long. And let's give him his benefit. It was his day. It was his venue. If Boniface Mwangi or whoever other person wanted to pass a message, they could call their own demonstration, report to the police, and get all the permits. But I think it's rather too juvenile, if you ask me, for somebody to go to another person's functions. When I do agree with Benji that actually Uhuru Park is sacred place, and that argument should be directed first at the people who went there, tried to intervene with a function organized by the labor movement.
What else do you get the labor movement to listen?
There are legitimate ways. You could, first of all, if you want to do a demonstration, You could do a demonstration outside the court headquarters. You could actually go to court. You could actually look at so many other things. But just going to somebody's function so that you are able to direct the narrative so that it seems to be that you know, these guys are being persecuted is unfortunate, you know, to say the least.
You are a lawyer. There is nothing in the Constitution that says that there is a function called the labor movement function. There is even nothing in the Constitution that says that you should not demonstrate where Mwangi was demonstrating. He was making his point clear, and the Bill of Rights allows him to do that. And you are a lawyer. He was not disrupting anybody. He did not go near the president. But I think even if you are defending the way things went and probably the way Atwoli did things, you have also to appreciate this. I think Kenya has moved to a level where it does not. The leaders, the labor movement has highly educated people with intellectual credentials that it is pathetic they are being represented by a person like Atwoli. We need a new crop of leaders who have the intellectual know-how. The guy couldn't even read the speech he had prepared. And he went ahead to talk about things like, I want the president to stay for 10 years. He's God-given. This level of psychophancy in this country must die. And if you are a friend of Atwoli, you should tell him that there is no audience for him, for what he's doing, and it doesn't help the country. And even the president himself should tell him, look, I don't want these psychophants. These are the people who sing the president is very good, and they will also tell the president you are doing the right thing even when the president is doing wrong. They shouldn't even, they're a liability.
Let's come back to the issue proper a little bit. Moses, you saw those pictures. Certainly you're not suggesting that you support the way Boniface Mwangi was handled.
I'm not supporting the way he was handled at all. And also, I am not supporting Atwoli for saying he has got his own army. I think I am a believer in the rule of law, and I believe that only legitimate government has got, you know, a monopoly of having an army. So I'm not suggesting that Atwoli was right to say that, and I'm not suggesting that it was right to handle him that way. But I'm just saying it is direct provocation for somebody who goes and creates a security breach in the pursuit of their so-called rights. Because my rights end where the rights of Dr. Kisiangani start. And we must start respecting that there is a Bill of Rights and there is a right to freedom of expression. But there is not, we don't have, a freedom of anarchy.
He was one man. How possibly would he be a security breach and he was still on the ground?
By the way, I think you are wrong to say he was one man, because if you go back to Twitter, he had a campaign going for 4 days saying, let's go out there, let's cause a security breach, and many people are saying, yes, I'm going to do it.
And what happens on the ground many times are two different things.
But does Moses believe that Atwoli's right to support the MPs to hike their pay? Do you think that is the basis upon which you can judge that demonstration?
No, Dr. Kisiangani, it is Atwoli's right to have an opinion on anything. Just like you can have an opinion on whether it is better to take Fanta or Coca-Cola. It's your right. So you cannot fault him for that. All you can say is what he did, was it illegal or illegal? How do you go and demonstrate against someone for holding an opinion and you claim that you want to entrench, individual rights?
Moses, and to be sure, to express your outrage at a public function by, yelling, etc., is a legitimate avenue to express again your dissatisfaction and even your anger, depending what the issue is and whatnot. And in fact, in ancient societies, like ancient Rome, for example, that would cause the leader, the king, to come to the wall and say, what is it that is causing that?
Should Uhuru have done that? Should President Uhuru have done that?
To be honest, if I was him, I would have. I'd have said, what is it that could I even see him? Because it is a legitimate avenue to say something is really wrong, and just because Kenyans are fearful, just because they might feel that they're not confident enough to maybe join in, perhaps, does not mean that the outrage against Duale and Linturi and all of these other guys, and also Atwoli, is misplaced. And let me say as well that the biggest mistake Atwoli made, and he's someone that has done quite a bit, but sometimes you could argue that in a way he's kind of running out of ideas and running out of steam. The worst part was to say that I have an army. We do not want to institutionalize and endorse impunity in this country. He's a senior leader in this country, somebody sitting next to the President of Kenya, somebody inviting the President of Kenya. Those are very, very wrong statements. He should be admonished for it.
Anne, the point we are talking about is our starting point is the Constitution. The Bill of Rights legitimizes what Boniface Mwangi did. There is no other law which is superior to that one. So it doesn't matter. Even President Kibaki, before he retired, he has been jeered at one time because people didn't
even
like
by
it.
the same Wangi.
Even by the same Wangi. And even in parliament, people have had to jeer the president. We are not going to create a banana republic by people just being taken. Look at the human rights. How was he handled? Even if Atwara has an army, how can you handle a person the way they did it?
Gentlemen, I must end it there. It's just the time is eluding us completely. Allow me to draw your attention now to our Super Bowl, and there's a graphic I want to show you. Well, someone tells Sky News, and Kenyans on Twitter have taken exception to the headline that you are seeing right now: Kenya criminal president invited to the UK, and that was posted on the UK leading website for Sky News. The story is about what in the West is a controversial invite by the British government extended to President Kenyatta to attend the Somalia conference in London on Tuesday. And of course, you saw that story a little earlier. I did go through this particular article, and say for the headline, it is accurate. That the rest of the report is accurate. What do you think of it? Is that statement indicative at all of how Western governments are viewing President Kenyatta as a criminal?
This is a tough topic for those of us that do, this work, punditry, and have done this for some years now. If you go back on the records, this is the kind of thing that we have predicted, that we have warned against. And it reminds me very well, because when you do policy, when you do global affairs, the best lesson is something called, and Professor can tell us a little more about that, comparative studies. So for me here, looking at this story, yes, there'll be a lot of parsing, there'll be a lot of spinning, a lot of different efforts at the same time, but absolutely this reminds me of discussions around Muammar Gaddafi in the 1988 Lockerbie, Scotland bombing, where he was accused of many things, where he was labeled many things by Western nations, ultimately aided by those same nations, France and Berlusconi of Italy, finally taking him out a good 22 years later. It reminds me of the discussions around violation of UN Resolution 1641 of Saddam Hussein, the no-fly zones between Iraq and Kurdistan, and this is how the discussions go, and then all of a sudden you've got big-time problems. There's another article that talked about the allegations against President Kenyatta, the murderous gangs, and what have you. So again, this is the kind of discussions that we were talking about when you talked about the eligibility of ICC indictees in running for president. It's a big embarrassment, not only for the president as a person, but for the nation, because the president is a symbol of unity for a republic. So this is no simple matter.
It's very interesting that you phrase it like that. And Prof, I wanted to come to you with this. It seems that, at one point, Musalia Mudavadi talked about a stain on our collective conscience. And at that point, I remember pundits dismissing him, like, did all 40 million Kenyans go out in 2007 and cause that kind of violence? But the mere fact that now our president is indicted by the ICC, it sort of feels like a collective stain, and like these words are coming back to haunt us. What will it take to clear Kenya in this matter? Is it anything short of, the ICC saying that, the president is not guilty, or is there a way to separate the country and the man at all?
I think there are two things here which we shouldn't confuse. This Sky News is owned by Rupert Murdoch. That is a big press mogul in the United Kingdom, and he's a big empire. This is not a representation of the British government. That's the first thing you should know. It is just a statement from the free press in the Western world, and it is expressing its opinion. That's not the opinion of the British government, because the British government has invited our president to go there. That's the first thing we rule out. And in a free society, I think the British government has no control over this kind of message. The second thing that requires a lot of interrogation by Kenyans today is that there was a problem in 2007. The people who are most affected by the 2007 post-election violence were basically people from Central Kenya or Mount Kenya region and the people from the Rift Valley. These two people again returned the highest number of votes for President Uhuru and of course the deputy president. What they are telling you is that we have no problem with 2007. So why would anybody keep sympathizing? Even the people who voted against Uhuru and Ruto seemed to refuse to vote for Uhuru on the same account about people who have already chosen to support Uhuru and Ruto. So really, the point is that the voting pattern in Kenya, especially in the areas which were most affected, is demonstrating that there is no issue in 2007. So maybe the Western world, by inviting President Uhuru, they are trying to say, if the victims themselves think Uhuru and Ruto was not wrong, then why are we going to fight over this battle? We have strategic interest in East Africa.
Well, Prof, let me cut you short there, because we don't know about that. The victims are represented in the ICC case, so anything short, I suppose, of them pulling out formally.
We're talking about the majority
that
voters.
is the no. If you're talking about victims have actually are enjoined in this matter at the ICC. I'm told time is up, and this is just simply impossible. But very quickly, I wanted to hear from you, Moses. How far do you think President Kenyatta's visit to the United Kingdom will shape this particular incident, become perhaps the first incident to reshape the way Africa and the West is dealing, the way Kenya is treated by Europe? And do you think at all that Western powers may get to a point where they say, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them, or let's look for another partner in the region. Let's work with Tanzania or Uganda.
I think I want largely to support what Dr. Said that, you know, really the people of Kenya demonstrated on the 4th of March that they are ready to move on beyond 4th of March, and they are the primary party in this particular issue, not the Western community. But on the other hand, I really want to commend especially the British government, because I think the decision they have taken to invite President Kenyatta was not an easy decision. And it must have been one where they had to review many of their, previously stated positions. And because of that, I expect that other European and even Western nations are going to follow suit and say, Kenya is a very important member of the international community. We've got 500,000 people in the Dadaab camp alone. We've got another 150,000 people, Somalis living as refugees outside the camps. 650,000 people is not a small number. That burden is shared by Kenya alone. You've got the situation in Sudan. We've got the Ethiopia, Eritrea, sort of flashpoint out there. You cannot ignore Kenya within this region, and certainly not within Africa. And I think what the Western nations are realizing is that it is engagement. Yeah, not isolation that is going, to take this issue forward.
And I have to say, I know as you finish up, I have to say, I've got to caution Dr. Turner against the temptation to be maybe a little shallow or flippant. You have got to mean in foreign policy what you say and say what you mean. And so let us take positions in good conscience, policy positions, not say one thing today and then change very quickly the other day, because you don't want to continue to feed the notion of I can hold you at ransom because you have these interests, etc. Now I understand that there's been reports that he's trying not to be ejected out of the country, etc. I think that the British and whoever Western powers should stand their ground on whatever stated positions they took, and and bear out those positions, because otherwise you start to run into a problem trying to equivocate legal matters through political settlements and whatnot. It's very dicey, and that would be a caution to the High Commissioner.
Very interesting times we live in, and certainly,
certainly.
Kenya's position right now may signal a major policy shift for the rest of the world. We'll wait and see how it plays out. Gentlemen, I want to truly appreciate your time, Prof, today. I need those views for next week, so allow me to end it there. Professor Edward Kisiangani in the middle, to my extreme right, Benjamin Dolo, and to my immediate right, Moses Kuria. Your views are very welcome, and thank you for sharing them. Time for us to take a short break. I'll be back a little later. And of course, we also have the sports news lined up for you. Don't go too far.
Relax. The secret is out. Discover the secret in Kenya's #1 whiskey. Top Secret. Distilled, blended and bottled by London Distillers Kenya Limited.
My name is Odhiambo Morris. I'm happy to win this.